Welcome to My Media Life, brought to you by the World Media Group. My name is Belinda Barker and I'm the Chief Executive. We have a slightly different podcast for you today. We're talking this series to people from all different walks of the media industry about their careers. Our very first one was with Sir Martin Sorrell. And today we have the winner of this year's World Media Award, The Rising Stars, and who is Obinna Iwuji.
Yes.
Now, have I pronounced that correctly?
Completely fine, Belinda. Obinna, yeah.
Perfect. Obinna is the Content Partnerships Manager at Wavemaker. He's also a podcaster, which makes me nervous because I'm sure he's better at it than I am. And also a member of the Black Young Professionals Association, BYP
Network, yes. Yeah.
BYP Network. So Obinna, before we get into the main part of this, I'd really like to understand a little bit more about what your route into media was, because I know it's very different for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And before I go anywhere, Belinda, just thank you so much for this opportunity to talk on your platform. And World Media Group, it's been a crazy time these past couple of weeks, just getting to know you and the team, but it's been a blessing. So thank you for the opportunity. And so in terms of my path into media, I think we had a conversation about this earlier. A lot of our paths tend to be non-traditional, right? I didn't go to school. I went to school for economics and statistics. So very data-focused background. The full story is essentially around the pandemic time, I was working in government, in education policy as a data analyst in America. And, COVID hit and my visa was running out. And so I was just like, it's time to go back home. And so I came back and I was feeling like a bit of a failure. I didn't have a job when I came back. I just broke up with my girlfriend. And I was in quite a lot of debt. So I wasn't in the best of places. And I was just trying to look for anything in order to just get me to that next level. And so I was looking at my skills and what I had done. And I previously worked with this hospital in Nigeria in like creating their website. And they wanted to push a campaign to talk about nutrition to, the daily people in order to, get them eating better so they wouldn't have to go to the hospital as much. And so I was talking to the founder of the clinic and I was like, okay, I've made some content for you guys. How do you reach your average person? And they were just like, I don't know. You're going to have to figure it out for us. And so that introduced me to the world of like audience generation and digital marketing, right? So I was now focused on, okay, how do you get a message out and reach general audiences? I did some online courses here and there and started doing kind of like LinkedIn campaigns because I was looking for a job to show my skills as a data analyst and, put it within different topics. I did that a few times and just by luck, a recruiter reached out to me saying, hey, I love what you did here. Would love to have a conversation. And we had a conversation. I talked to them a bit about the things I'd done in the past and my future ambitions. And they just said, hey, Wavemaker would be a great fit for you. So, I studied a bit about Wavemaker to make sure actually it was a great fit for me. And then I said, yes, I'll go for it. And I think the main reason why I went for it is because I've understood for a long time the power of media, even though perhaps I didn't understand the right words. But, I believe one of the greatest exports countries like America or even the United Kingdom has done is media, right? Come to our country. We are Great Britain. You know what I mean? America, the American dream. And so it's sold a story across the world about what it means to be part of that country. They sell movies, they sell music, they sell culture all through media. And so I was always interested in how I can be a part of that conversation and to better influence culture to people like me to change our story. I can go length into that. So I'm going to hold on. But it's because of my untraditional background that, we have this podcast and Wavemaker Roots called Media in Color. And it's about educating people like me that, hey, this is an industry. This is a real thing. You can make money. You can do good work. And it's available too. You don't just have to go the doctor lawyer path. You can do this too. And yeah, and we talk about other things as well. But sorry, that was a very long-winded introduction to me, but there you go. That's how I got into the industry.
So you're content partnership manager at Wavemaker.
Yes.
The media industry it has enormous breadth to it. Can you explain it for somebody who was coming into the industry and how it fits in?
Sure thing. So in layman's terms, content partnerships, right? So let's say we have brand A. I don't know. I have a bunch of books here, so they're a book company, and they want to push a campaign to push a new series of books they're launching. So my job would be to find publishers and partners who own an audience that they are trying to target, and create a strategy to meld them two together to create a successful campaign using content, right? And so content is a big word, right? It can mean a lot of things. Yes, it can mean like internet articles, right? So CNN is a common partner that we work with. And so they write a lot of bespoke articles for us, but it can also mean documentary series. It can also mean a podcast like this one. Content is very varied, as we all know. It's about finding the right content to fit the campaign and the aims of the brand that I'm working with. But in layman's terms, that is what I do.
And what's the favorite bit of your job? What do you enjoy the most?
I think for me, my best part really is when you get to talk to the different partners and just see the repository of what they actually have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
My mom loves CNN. My mom loves CNN. I grew up on CNN. And so the opportunity now to work with them as a partner is crazy. And you get to see behind the scenes. They actually took us to their studio and I got to say, and this is CNN inside the actual studio.
Love that.
Yeah. I think that to me is the best part. Like The Economist, my whole uni life was based around The Economist, if I'm honest. And so to be able to then work with them as a partner, trying to make strategies for brands and creating those branded content there is an amazing point. I was once a pure consumer. I'm now behind the scenes. And so, yeah, I think that's the best part for me.
So do you have, for me, from the outside, it's your enthusiasm just oozes out of you. So if I was to say, what's your secret talent, it would be your enthusiasm. But what do you think is, you've been in the industry, well, you've been with Wavemaker for 3 years now, I understand.
Yeah.
What do you think is your secret talent?
This question is always, I don't know if people will take this as a valid answer, but I'll tell a story and then I'll give my answer. So, first of all, I didn't start in content and partnerships. I started in data and analytics because my background was in data.
Yeah.
And so when I first joined Wavemaker, I was joining in the analytics team. And and it just made sense because that's where I came from and that's how I entered the industry. And I remember one day I was in the office and I don't know why, I was just walking down the corridor and I was just smiling for no reason, like a crazy person. And this person came up to me and was like, "Why are you smiling? What's so good about life? Why are you smiling?" And we ended up having a conversation. They also came from America. And so we talked about America for a bit. We talked about different publications, and all of that. Lo and behold, this person was the partner for content and partnerships in Wavemaker. And so we ended up just having more of a conversation. I told her about my longer term ambitions within media. And she was just like, "I think you'd be a great person for the partnerships team. Let me just show you some of our work, And then long story short, I ended up joining the team. And so I think in terms of a superpower, I guess giving out charisma for energy, that is sort of a superpower for me. I always felt very insecure about saying that as a strong point because it's like, all flash, no depth. But I'm learning that it's actually quite hard to find people who add energy. A lot of people suck energy. And so I just make it a point in my life that I give as much energy as I can to the people around me. Sometimes, I'm better than other days, but generally speaking,
We all
I
are.
think that's been the thing that's really pushed me to where I am. And is the reason why I end up being a root of a lot of projects, because I'm able to give a lot of energy to projects at the genesis. But yeah, that's what I would call it.
It's interesting you're talking about the change in direction that you made from data to effectively the more kind of content creative side. And I do think that is one of the things about working within this industry
Mm.
I love the most is that you get exposed to so many different things and you are able to make those kinds of changes.
Do you mind if I just add something
Yeah,
there?
yeah, go for it.
Um, I absolutely agree with that point so much. And I'll say two things, right? So I started working with Wavemaker Roots, which is our employee resource group and community around cultural inclusion in advertising. And it's upon working in Wavemaker Roots that I got exposed to the vast majority of media. Because when you work in analytics, you're quite silent, right? You're dealing with numbers, databases, and all of that. That's where I come from. So it made a lot of sense. But when I started doing projects within Root, that's when I got exposed to the planning team. I got exposed to AV because we are doing projects alongside of them. I got exposed to content. I got exposed to strategy and all of that because I had to in order for my work within Roots to make a lot of sense. And so it's upon doing all of that that you see how everything is very interlinked, right? Like you have to talk to the investment team to better understand what partners are viable for you to work within, like my ERG strategy when I'm doing a campaign. I have to talk to planners because I need to think about how to distribute the money that I have with, through the budget in order to best touch the platforms in the best way possible. I have to talk to content and creative to get an idea of like the big picture and what we're trying to do. Everything is very interlinked. And I didn't realize how wide it was and how much there's actually so many connections until I joined that. And now, even though, my main role is content partnerships, I end up doing a lot of planning. I end up doing a lot of display. I end up doing a lot of different things. And so, yeah, you end up becoming quite the multidisciplinarian. And that's been a big blessing for me. Sorry, I just had to add that part because it was just there and I had to do it.
So, as an individual, as a person, where do you get your daily news from? You've already mentioned CNN and The Economist, but are they part of your regular news diet?
So, the CNN, yes, because my mom texts me like once a week about, did you see this on CNN? So by default, I didn't know getting that. But yeah, I also, when I'm thinking more about advertising, I do look at this blog called Activation Ideas. Is run by this gentleman, who he used to work in Ogilvy. I think he now works as a freelance, um, you know, advertiser, so to say. And I think that's where I get a lot of my inspiration about what's there. They filter by categories, and so you can see what's won awards, what's also more low key. So I think that's
That's
where I
more
get.
for your work.
Mhm.
But in a broader sense, where are you getting your media input from?
Okay, in a broader
On a
sense,
personal level, yeah, rather than your
okay,
work.
absolutely. So on a personal level, yeah, it is CNN's The Economist. I also watch this show. It's based in America, but I've watched the Daily Show a lot, and that they add a bit of comedianness, funniness to your news, so that helps it be a lot more digestible. I've got BBC alerts on my phone as well, so I also get that there. If I'm honest, I try my best not to absorb too much news all at once, just because it's not always the most positive thing. And so there are times when I would like literally scour the internet seeking lighter news, right? So there's a fire in Afghanistan to more, a puppy was saved by the lake. And I get that sort of news more from social media, and that sort of side.
Mhm. And is that what you use to help turn your brain off, or do you have other things that you use to, uh, again, we talked briefly
Yeah.
before we started this about how, particularly during, lockdown and COVID and working from home, that there is this always on attitude. We're recording this at 9 in the morning. You've already been working for a period of time at home. Um, so how do you clear your head? How do you get out of that space?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I'm the best model for this, to be honest. Because like, I guess I am a reader, so I read a lot of books. That's something that I do. But to be honest, the best way for me to relax and clear my head is usually making something. So I taught myself how to code a long time ago, and it's what pushed me into like data. And so a lot of my time is spent just coding stuff and making stuff. Right now I'm very obsessed with generative art. And so I'm about to go on a nerdy tangent. Please forgive me. But yeah, so generative art allows you to use essentially code to create art using like formulas and maths within nature. And so there's this library in JavaScript called P5 that it's meant to be for those who are more design orientated as a coder. And so I've been using that a lot to just, make different pieces and stuff like that. And I don't know if this sounds weird to anyone, but yeah, that's what I do for fun. I also do poetry and I perform a lot, so that also helps me calm down. It sounds like work, but I don't know. There's just something about switching my head to that sort of thing that it calms me down, and it makes me use a different sort of energy. And so that's my main way of calming down. Not sure if that's the most healthy thing to do, but that's what I do.
Well, the poetry, absolutely, because that is getting outside of yourself, isn't it?
Mm.
It's interesting. There does seem to be something of a renaissance of the spoken word performance. I've been hearing more and more about it, which is that's a big juxtaposition between you and your digital. That's really different. Interesting.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think in the UK, I don't know why, but spoken word has become quite prominent over the
Yeah.
next few years, and I imagine
Mm.
it's going to increase over time. Um, but yeah, it is a way of reflecting, getting outside of your body.
Mm.
And there's something nice about, creating a cadence with your words that just, adds a sense of uniformity, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, I've seen a lot. I've spoken to a lot of spoken word artists. A lot of them, ironically, end up going into copywriting as a thing they do on the side. So I think advertising and spoken word actually has a lot of interlinks, right? Because you're trying to tell a story, you're trying to hook an audience, trying to convey a message. You're just changing, I guess, the goal of your message a bit when you're moving it more to advertising. Um, but yeah, I see it as a compliment to the things that I already do, if I'm honest.
The last question: who or what inspires you?
Ah, yes. This question. Huh. Um, I have I have two things that I think inspire me the most. One, if I'm honest, is just where me and my family have been. Like, my mom came to the UK, she was a dishwasher, my dad was a cab driver. Um, and we've been able to create something more than what we had, right? Not saying the story has been completely smooth and all of that, but I was talking to someone, and my childhood place where I grew up in Kilburn has been completely knocked down, right? It's gone. Um, in a way, that's a blessing, because I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't the best of places, but it made me reflect and say, look how far we've come, right? Like, I used to live in a council estate in Kilburn where like my prospects weren't the best. I remember I moved schools, and between the school I was in where I grew up to where I moved in Wembley, those kids where I moved, they were on their 12 times tables and I hadn't done my twos yet. That was the gap in education that existed. And we are able to overcome that and be where we are today. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm just grateful. I'm just like, that in itself is an inspiration, regardless of where I go from now. where I was now to where I am now, it's a huge jump, and I'm thankful, and that inspires me a lot. And so, yeah, and I want to push that for my brother and push that message onwards. So, but I'll stop preaching there. So that's one point. The other point that inspires me a bit as well, honestly, has been the amount of recent news about like you see Chimamanda's now in a lot of cultural zeitgeist. There's this Zimbabwean education advocate, V, that's been pushing the narrative for education within Africa. Trevor Noah is making it as a strong South African comedian that I really appreciate. I think, you know, John Boyega, like there are just so many people like me who are doing things in life that I'm like, I never thought of someone like us being able to do that, and we're there. And I think that alone is inspiration. Not saying they have to be at that height, but just knowing that it's possible to change your narrative in such a dynamic way, to me, it's quite inspiring. So, yeah.
Well, I find you quite inspiring. And
Thank
I
you.
think that everybody listening to this will understand exactly why you were awarded the Rising Star for the World Media Awards this year. And I'm so delighted that we are going to continue to work together on the Future Leaders program. And I think with that, I just want to say thank you very much, Obinna, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope someone took something from this today, but it's a blessing. And I don't know, it's just I always feel weird about like awards and commendations sometimes, because it makes things look very like big and woo, but in reality we're just people doing our work, and you know, do your work, and hopefully you get recognition for the things you do. But regardless whether it comes or not, you need to make sure that you continue on your path, because your path is meant for you, right? So I'm thankful for the opportunity, and yeah, I hope this helps somebody.
Thank you. Thank you, Obinna.
Awesome. Thank you.